Once. It was at a pub. Pretty sure they were going to rob me. I was lucky, had a mate there who looked after me and took me home. It was a weird experience though, only got halfway through my drink before I started feeling it. Less than 10 minutes later, and I couldn't hold up my head or speak properly. Really don't wanna think about what would have happened if my mate wasn't there. Whatever they used, I don't think it wasn't a roofie, since I could remember everything, but it must have been some kind of sedative. Sounds like GHB to me. Dangerous stuff, especially mixed with booze. UK's most prolific rapist exclusively roofied men and recorded himself with them. A lot of the victims didn't realize they'd been attacked until the police came around. https://n.mwikipedia.org/wiki/reinhard_siniger. Some of the victims didn't want to give evidence, even after they were told about it. The entire story is chilling. One time I was traveling on my own, ended up at a club for a party with a group of people I met there. Met more people at a party, and one of them, a guy also, spiked me with what I think was GHB. Next thing I remember, I was following him somewhere. It was dawning, or there was some light out, and something on my mind was saying no, danger, but I kept following him, and he was pulling me through the sleeve of my hoodie. It was a little bit out of body, honestly. I repeated a few times to myself that I would go, and eventually told him. He insisted for me to follow him. Pulled me. I got aggressive and told him I was going back to my hostel, and that was it. Took me a while to figure out where I was. 40 minutes walk to the hostel, needed to clear my head, and even then still kinda blurry. The only way to describe it to you is, do you know when you black out during a night out? If you say yes, then it was like that. But I blacked out and woke up during the same night without touching a bed. Edit. A few years prior to that I had been spiked from sipping a friend's drinking, and I had read the effects of GHB, so I assumed that, in both cases, they were the same. The first, since I only sipped, I felt like the beginning of ketamine or a strong tranquilizer, but I could handle it. Toss the drink, never found out who did it. Never spiked with GHB, so not roofied in the traditional sense. But yes, I have had my drink spiked. A guy who didn't like me put a few tabs of acid in my beer for a laugh. I took mushrooms quite regularly at the time, but never touched acid, because I was scared of it. Needless to say, I freaked out. Had troubles with panic attacks for a few years afterwards. Definitely feel that it negatively affected my mental health in the long run too. Damn, that's fucked. Spiking someone with psychedelics is super fucked up. I would have been throwing some hands if someone did that to a friend of mine. Sorry to hear someone did that to you. Been roofied twice, once at a bar, another time at a concert. The one at the bar, some woman tried to grope and kiss me, but my friends could spot that something was wrong and took me home. The time of the concert, I did wake up the next day in a random apartment building pretty much in another city with a teacup on my crotch. It's scary when you have zero recollection of anything happening. So women did it to you? This is one thing I was curious about. Women are just as fucked up as men, but I figured more often than not, it'd be men doing it. I was getting drinks with my girlfriend and another couple. The girls wanted to go to a different bar, so they gave me their drinks to finish. I remember walking down the street, and then I woke up 2 days later. Apparently I didn't act all that different, but they could tell I was pretty fucked up. I don't remember anything, except leaving the first bar. After I went into work, and told a friend, and then my boss made fun of me. When I went to the doctor, to get a blood draw, so I wouldn't get fired over a random urinalysis result, I just got laughed at again. I just kept getting told that no one would roofie me. I tried explaining the situation, but no one cared. 2 days later seems to be a common time frame. How do you feeling about it now? Knew a guy who believed he got roofied at a bar by another guy in order to get him out of contention for a woman they were both interested in. Said he had one drink and apparently friends found him passed out on the men's room floor and had to carry him out. Craziest story though, my daughter has 2 guy friends who claim they were roofied at some girl's house, and that girl and one of her friends essentially raped them. One of them vaguely remembers some of the events, the other remembers nothing, but both say the physical evidence was pretty clear on what happened. Oh man, if I weren't already a hater of going out to bars and clubs, these replies would change me to a shut-in. I got roofied by 2 girls in college. They brought me back to one of the girls' apartment and tried to do things to me. They were friends of mine at the time. I woke up the next day not knowing what happened, but knew I hadn't drank enough to black out. One of the girls brought me a coffee in the morning. That's horrible. Did you stay friends with the girls at the time? A good friend of mine. He was at a house party and someone slipped something in his drink. He says he doesn't remember anything until about 12 hours later, and that he thinks someone raped him. He wouldn't report it or anything because he would have to tell people what happened. I hope he's doing well. That sounds very traumatic. Me and my brother have both had something slipped into our drink. For my brother, his friends rescued him because some woman was trying to drug him up and rob him. For me, I was with a group of friends, and I was the boss at work, and I think one of them drugged me for fun. Never been that messed up before or since. I didn't report it, but nobody molested me either. I was at a bar with some friends. I had only had 3 drinks in about 3 hours as I was shooting pool, and was otherwise occupied. We left and went across the street and we ordered. I had a beer, and went to the restroom. Finished the new beer, and started another, and suddenly I felt like I was utterly hammered, like more drunk than I've ever been. Just wasted and out of it. No way that 4 beers had done that. I was offered a ride home by one of the friends in the group. I declined and said I'd walk. They insisted, demanded they give me a ride home. I angry as said no and walked home. Probably the longest second or walk I'd ever had. The next day I had a splitting headache and just felt sick. I know someone doped me up, and I believe it was the friend who so adamantly demanded giving me a ride home, knowing full well I had walked home leaving my car behind dozens of times before, and they never argued then. What happened to that person afterwards? I voluntarily took a tablet I was told was something else. Turns out it was a roofie. I don't think anything bad happened to me as I had friends looking out for me, but I did wake up 2 days later in a different city with no memories of what had happened. My mates said I was sleeping with my eyes wide open. This is fucking terrifying. Did they fill you in on what happened? Not me, but a close friend was doing a study abroad with a mixed group of guys and girls, about 9 or so people in total. While visiting Ireland at a pub, he ordered 5 beers for his friends. In hindsight, the person that roofied his drinks must have thought he was buying drinks for the ladies when in reality the drinks were for all the boys. That night was a crazy one, and they tell this story. While laughing through it, one man left the bar and took off running and woke up the next day in a farm field. Another guy was found a few towns over after taking a bus home. The other 2 were luckily taken care of by the girls of the group and made it home safely. Not sure if I do this story justice, but it was a wild experience for those involved. That's a lot. Dude woke up in a field. There was a guy in my dorm freshman year who roofied himself because he wanted to know what it was like. At least that's the excuse he gave. He ended up in the hospital because someone saw him walking on train tracks on a very active railroad. He was the weirdest, sketchiest guy I ever met, and I warned every woman he brought back about him. If he is willing to roofie himself as a test, then he 100% is willing to roofie women. A couple times he would come home with a date that looked belligerent, and I had to intervene and suggest she go to the hospital. Even had to get their aunt involved when he refused to let them go. Jake, if you see this, you're an asshole. Was his last name Paul? Happened to a buddy of mine about 20 years ago. 2 women repeatedly drugged and raped him for 2 days. They both ended up getting pregnant. Crazy thing for them is that they videotaped all of it. The detective told my friend that he wouldn't have believed him if it wasn't for the videotape. Dude, what? How is he now? What happened to the women? What happened to the children? I voluntarily took a roofie for the experience. It was a safe place with good friends, so it was more just to see what it was like. I had 1 glass of wine, then pretty much would fall asleep on the spot, occasionally waking up for a few seconds, but couldn't fight the need to sleep again. Another time I was passed a joint at a concert that was laced with PCP. That was not a fun night. Another time I was passed a joint at a concert that was laced with PCP. That was not a fun night. What was that like? Never tried it, and not interested in trying it, but curious nonetheless. My husband and his male friend got roofied at a bar. My husband even took a picture of the drink, and later, when he looked, you can see the pill. But I guess they got in a huge fight. My hubby grabbed his friend's D***** and tried to rip it off. The hubby crapped himself. I guess his friend stole a boat motor. It was a hell of a time, I guess. I wasn't there. Oh, I guess his friend took a bush and replaced the boat motor. Yay, that qualifies as a hellish time, to put it lightly. My friend, a big guy of Ukrainian heritage, was having his goodbye party from his employer. We were all out at a bar. At one point, this asshole sat down beside him and a female colleague of his. She said, "Excuse me," implying that he leave. He got up and put his hand on the table in front of my friend. But that asshole actually slipped a roofie into a drink. But instead of going into the drink of that female colleague of my friend, it went into my friend's drink instead, which he continued to down quickly. After a few minutes, my friend, a 183 centimeters, 6 feet, guy, got up and fell face first on the floor. We took him to the hospital and they helped him. Everyone thought he got brutally drunk, but the hospital proved that he was roofied. Be careful out there, folks. My hubby is Eastern European, solid and 6 foot. I've seen him drink a whole bottle of rum in 2 hours, and was still standing, albeit swaying and throwing up. I hate to think what would make someone like that fall flat on the ground. How awful. I was accidentally roofied at a party by my girlfriend's male friend once. He made her a drink. I didn't like the vibe he was putting out, so I swapped drinks with her. About halfway through I'm blackout toasted and don't remember the rest of the night. Apparently my girlfriend put me to bed in her bed, and shortly after that her friend left. I confronted him about it and he denied it. I told her about it and she told me she knew he did it to other people but would never do it to her. I told her she shouldn't be friends with people who drug people against their will, and she disagreed, so we split. What the F*** is wrong with your ex? Used to go to a neighborhood pub. There was this lady there who was a regular with a real piece of S*** for a boyfriend. The lady was no gem either. One time she tried aggressively flirting with me and 2 other regulars. We declined her advances ad nauseam. When she went to leave I was out having a smoke and she tried to kiss me. Dodged the kiss. She called me gay. Whatever. Real piece of work. It was on a separate visit at the same bar. I left my drink because most people there were chill and the bartenders all knew me and usually looked out. Was on a sort of date at the time. A bit later I'm in the bathroom on the toilet, struggling to maintain consciousness. Everything went black and I was high or whatever. Felt like my heart was slowing down. I remember feeling a sort of calm and trying to will myself back to life. I came to, vomited everywhere in the stall. Went to wash up in the bathroom sink. Noticed I was pale and my lips were blue. Went out, told my date I wasn't feeling well and went home. Saw her and her boyfriend around after that. Just ignored them mostly. Not sure what they slipped me honestly. Close street Google led me to might have been ketamine. Edit. People are saying it wasn't ketamine. Still a mystery. The waiter at the South Beach restaurant I was at roofied me thinking it was my date's drink. I woke up an hour later in the ambulance and they arrested him. I was on a customer security course recently. Trainer mentioned that sometimes a date rapist will spot a couple, like the look of the girlfriend, and drug the boyfriend to get him out the way. Yes, I came to in bed with a wildly unattractive woman in a house a decent way from where I started. I don't know if I was roofied deliberately or I accidentally got something meant for someone else. The end result was the same. Took me a while to really understand or make sense of the night. One of the worst experiences of my life. Would not recommend. This is the first time I have told a soul. Was chatting it up with a nurse at a bar many years ago. Wound up in the ear after she slipped something into my drink. What happened after that? You okay?